Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. I appreciate you guys being here. Today is a little different. We're gonna break down one of my music videos, kind of break down the process on how me and the team pulled it off and what we did to kind of get the effects that we wanted. We're gonna worry less about why I cut to what and why we did this and that. That was all done in the pre-production and in the concept and all that good stuff. We're gonna focus on the big parts like effects and why I did certain things as far as like masking and stuff like that goes. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. If not, I appreciate you being here. If you want to see the video first before we jump into anything, you can check it out on this card here. Before we jump into it, you gotta set the ambience, and if you don't know what that means get your tea ready. So what I did was I already had a concept. We know we wanted it to be like working hard, doing all this cool stuff, but we also wanted it to be studio. Went to Goodwill, got all of my stuff at Goodwill, got the books from home. All this stuff was accumulated from me and Nate and other people on set. But we also bought some like really vintage light bulbs that you've seen swinging from behind, and we took those back. I don't encourage you buying things for set that you want to take back if you don't intend on taking care of them and making sure that they're in the best condition when you return them to the store. That's called stealing. So for the initial setup on the black background, we had a 120D. Great light. I love those lights. We threw it on a mini dome. Thanks to my buddy at Self Films for letting me use all his modifiers for his lights. We used the mini dome, we threw it up on a grid, and then we sprayed some smoke around, and that's how we did that. Then for the second setup, which is my favorite setup, which was when we had him at the desk, we just kind of flew on the desk, put the books, organized them accordingly. Then I had the lamp plugged in on a dimmer, and then I also had the lamp that was flying in the background, the light, the vintage light on a dimmer. Eric and Moise, who was shooting BTS, had them on the dimmers ready to dim up when we started recording. I had a 2000 Kelvin bulb. That means I needed to match that 2000 Kelvin bulb in the back. That means I had to have some CTB on my fill light, which was another 120D on a big dome. I also had like a light coming from the back, a cheap Dracast light that I got years ago. Still works. Put a little softbox on it, had it, and separate him from the background a little bit. Luckily, I had a friend from Mankind Films. His name is Brock Howard. He supplied us with his Dana Dolly. It's not quite a Dana Dolly, it has rails, stuff like that, but it's really nice, and we kind of slid it in and out. It's got those really nice silky shots, and I pull focus manually because we didn't have a first AC on set to do that. I always recommend having as many people on crew that you can afford to pay for and get them to help you out, because it always makes set a lot quicker, because we had a limited time and we were kind of rushing. So I wonder what would have happened if we would have had more people, more time, and such. But sometimes it's what you got to do. You have to adapt. And that was pretty much all the setups. It really wasn't super complex. I always encourage people to plan ahead, make sure you know what you're going to do. I went to the studio a couple of times. I've been there, I've shot there before, so I already knew what to expect. This and that, just to make the artists and everybody on set feel more comfortable if you have a vision. Alright, so let's jump into the editing. So after I had all my shots, and I knew that initial shot was going to have C-stands and all that other studio stuff in the background, so I wanted to throw a mask around that. I just kind of masked around the area in which the light was hitting too, because I wanted to get that light in there as well. Then I feathered that because I didn't want it to be so harsh of a mask, and also we had a little light spill. Obviously no light is going to make a perfect line unless you strike it, which we didn't really strike it that much. I also dollied in on this shot as well, so I manually tracked the mask to make sure it stayed in the area that I wanted it to. And even though my clip was on the base layer, I threw a color matte and changed it to black, kind of a nail in the coffin to make sure that the black stayed consistent. And as you can see, it's not all the way completely black, so I opened up Lumetri color and brought down the shadows and blacks and messed with the curves a little bit to make sure that it was consistent. And that's how the shot came from this to this. Now look, this could have been a lot easier if we just had like a full black background and we exposed accordingly and had lights accordingly and stuff like that. But when we're working with something like this, it was on a budget. We had to get a studio that we could afford, and this is what we had, so we made it work. And look, it looks fine. Alright, so for this next shot, which is not my favorite shot, we had a different plan intended. As you can see, there's a light striped in the background. We kind of just moved that 120D with the big dome on it and gridded it and put some blue CTB in it as well. Actually, a little bit of a harsher blue. As far as editing goes, the shot seemed pretty boring to us, so we wanted to amp it up a little bit. We were trying to get off that he was handing his mixtape to people when they were just throwing it back to him, so I wanted to zoom into the hands a little bit. That's why it's important to shoot in a high resolution, maybe if you don't even plan on exporting in that resolution, because you might want to do some other stuff to it. That's the epitome of fix it and post, but at the same time it's like you do what you got to do. So what I did was I went through the keyframes and I found an area that I wanted in the clip where someone's hand was entering, hit a keyframe there, and I started the animation with another keyframe. I zoomed in all the way. I did it for each time that they hand to hand in. Then I threw an adjustment layer above that layer and hit keyframes exactly where the animation starts and begins. Then I went to the effects panels, threw on directional blur, made my direction adjustments, and then animated accordingly. That way we can have a little blur in there, so it kind of looks like a zoom effect. Talk my shit, walk my shit, on my shit. So okay, for this next one, what I did was I seen the shot, and I seen there's a lot of areas that needed to be masked out. Like you can see the rolling green at the top, you can see all that crazy stuff, and there's also light and smoke coming from behind. For this, I threw on another mask. I made sure that I stayed consistent with the light as well, and I tracked that mask in manually as well to make sure that it stayed stayed in that general area. I feathered this mask pretty exponentially because it had so much light and hitting and stuff, so I kind of had to finesse that and hope for the best. Also, I usually save color for last, but when I'm dealing with mask and trying to match the blacks and all that stuff, sometimes I throw in some color. So what I did next was I jumped into elementary color. When I jumped into elementary color, I threw in the LUT that I wanted. I keyed it down a little bit because I like LUTs, but they're only supposed to be a base layer. I adjusted my blacks accordingly and made it all match and all that good stuff. Then I grabbed this film burn that I got from Lens Distortions and I threw it on top of the clip, changed the blend mode to screen, and changed the opacity a little bit, and kind of finessed it to make sure it was in the right area. I kind of want to seem like it was coming from the bolt. I also got some fire embers in this scene that I thought would look cool, and that was also one of Nate's ideas. So what I did was I threw that in there, kind of turned down the opacity a little bit, and added a little special effect to it. So for the head tracking effect, where it looks like it's in the center, you've seen that quite a bit now. They did it in sicko mode, they did it in a couple music videos, and I thought it looked good in this scene, so I wanted to add it too. So what I did is I got my clip, threw it over into After Effects. So what you want to do is you want to go up to Stabilize Motion, and when you go up to Stabilize Motion, you're going to get options. When you go up to Options, so you want to make sure you go to that bottom drop down menu and choose Stop Tracking. What that's going to do is when the tracker feels like it can no longer track what you wanted it to track, it's going to stop tracking. That way you can adjust accordingly. If you don't turn that off, it's going to start correcting and it's probably going to mess up. Then you want to scale your tracker. The more motion, the bigger the outer box should be, and you want to put it over a point in your clip that it might be easier to track. Since Nate didn't have anything directly trackable on his face, I kind of put it over his nostril since that was a black dot. Then you want to hit Analyze, and After Effects is going to try to analyze it the best as possible. Each time it stops, readjust your squares according to motion, and let it do its thing. Once you get complete, you're going to have a bunch of tracking points like this, and it's going to look crazy. And all you want to do is just make sure you scale up, and then you got the effect. I threw some color on that, also threw on some more fire embers, changed the opacity, threw on some more film burns, and that's how you get from this.
But when I die, I still be around like I'm Beetlejuice. With that I'm in, I don't need a roof.
Alright, so for the head effect, so what we did on set is we wrapped Nate in a green screen all the way up to the collar area, and we also got a clean shake shot of him holding his hands out, that way we could put his head in there. So after throwing on the key light effect on the green screen clip, you want to hit the green color with the picker, and you want to make sure you choose the right color, and it's going to do its best to analyze the frame and find all the green. Then you can make some fine tunings to kind of make sure it's specific to your shot. It's always good that the artist or subject never wears any green, obviously, because they're going to be keyed out. I already knew that his chin was going to be under the hand, so I didn't really worry about feathering and doing all that good stuff with the chin and making sure I fine-tuned it because the beard was a little difficult. So I grabbed our clean slate with the hands and I threw his head in there. So I knew for sure that the clean slate was a little darker and it had shadows in certain areas. So what I did was I threw a solid object over his face, masked it out, kind of turned down the opacity a little bit, and it kind of creates the effect of a shadow. Then I tracked that mask accordingly to make sure it stays with his face. I did the same thing by tracking over the hands, duplicating them, creating a solid, and then also made a mask under his hands that looked like there was a shadow being casted from the hands to the chin. And then lastly, I duplicated his head, turned the opacity down, threw some blur on it, and it made it look like there was a shadow being casted from the head to the jacket. So after that was all said and done, I threw it back into Premiere and realized that the color was all whack. Now, I'm actually a DaVinci Resolve user, but I wanted to use Premiere for this for the dynamic link between After Effects and Premiere. But when it comes to color, most of my skill level is done in DaVinci Resolve, and I realized that there was a color matching problem within the hands. So what I did was exported that clip, threw it into DaVinci Resolve, and I was going to do all the color matching there, because for me that's easier, and DaVinci has really powerful color tools. So when we opened up DaVinci, I threw my clips in. What I did first was I went in there, I made a couple nodes. I already kind of know what base nodes I'm already going to do, so I kind of threw in my first node, which I always take as the color correction node. Then I create another node. I make this the contrast node. I mess with the curves a little bit to kind of get the color that I want. And on my third node is where I do my LUT. I threw in the same LUT that I was doing for the rest of the footage, and adjusting quarterly, keyed it down quite a bit just to add a little blue tint in there. Arrival is one of my favorite LUTs. It's from the Film Riot Cinematic LUTs Volume 2, I think is what I got it from. Now it's time to really color correct and make sure that face matches the hands. Guys, I always encourage that when you're on set, you try your best to match lighting, match all that good stuff, white balance, whatever you need to do to match it, because this was a first for me, and it really was a pain to try to get this to match accordingly, and it's still not really quite where I wanted it. It was just really close. So what I did was I masked around the face, desaturated a little bit, also added some blue in there because it was a little too orange. But it wasn't close enough, so I also added some contrast to it to make sure it was a little bit closer. Then I did the same thing for the hands. I wanted them to be a little bit warmer. So what I did was I threw a power window over them as well, warmed up the temperature a little bit, took down some of that purple magenta. And on my last node, I threw in the face analyze effect, which is one of my favorite effects in DaVinci. And I hit analyze, and what that did was it analyzed that whole entire clip for me, and it kind of masked out where the eyes, the eyebrows out, the lips, all that good stuff. And what I did, I took some of the eye bags out of his face. He looked a little tired that day. He needed some coffee, as you can see here.
I need to get some coffee.
Then I went into and I sharpened his eyes just a tad because I wanted him to be really nice and crisp, and also add just a little bit of smoothing to his face to clean up some of those blemishes. Nate, you really need to get some blemish cream. After it was all said and done, I threw that clip back into Premiere, added some keyframes, and kind of had it scale up over time to add a little bit of a motion effect to it as well. And that's how you get from this to this.
Win some, lose some, break some, take some, make some, spend some, rent, do income, invest big some, then you end up like me, yeah. Then you end up like me, yeah.
So yeah guys, that's pretty much it for the music video. The rest of it was using the same clips over and over again and kind of cutting in good areas and doing all that good stuff, but we're not going to go over that. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, but most of all, leave a comment. Let me know if you have any questions about this and this and that. And if you haven't seen the original video already, I encourage you to check it out. I think it's pretty cool. It's also my work, so it'll be very supportive to me. Check it out in the card here. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know as well. I really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. So I actually deleted all the footage of the screen recording I have when I was editing on accident. So I had to go back and reverse engineer all the editing I did on the screen recording, that way I can make this video for you guys. So I really hope you appreciated it. I put a lot of work into it. But anyways guys, thanks for watching. Until next time, peace.
Win some, lose some, break some, take some, make some, spend some, rent, do income, invest big some, then you end up like me, yeah. Then you end up like me, yeah. I remember back when I had nothing, I was broke. Okay, I had a hope, one day I make them know